I, 28, F, stood at my own wedding reception. The air felt warm and full of light. Laughter from our friends and family filled the big, beautiful room. I held my new husband, Mark's hand. His hand was warm and steady in mine. I felt a deep sense of peace. After all the planning and the stress, this was it. This was the first moment of the rest of our lives. I leaned my head on his shoulder. He squeezed my hand gently. I looked out at all the smiling faces. My parents were crying happy tears. His parents, Eleanor and Richard, looked so proud. Everything felt perfect. It was a storybook moment, the kind you dream about when you are a little girl. I felt like the luckiest person in the world. My maid of honor, Chloe, stood up to give her toast. She was my best friend. We had known each other since kindergarten. She held a glass of champagne. Her smile looked a little tight, a little strange. I thought maybe she was just nervous. Public speaking was not her favorite thing. I gave her a reassuring nod. She cleared her throat. The room grew quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. She raised her glass. "I want to make a toast," she began. Her voice was clear and loud. "To my best friend, Lily. We have been through everything together, and I have never seen her as happy as she is today." She paused and looked at me. I smiled back, feeling a rush of love for her. She then turned her gaze to Mark. Her smile vanished. Her eyes were cold. "And to the groom," she said, her voice dripping with something I could not name. It sounded like ice. "To Mark, who finally got over his past." The words hung in the air. A few people clapped uncertainly. I frowned. It was a strange thing to say. What past? Mark and I had been completely open with each other. I knew all about his ex-girlfriends. There were no big secrets. I felt Mark's hand stiffen in mine. I looked up at him. His face was pale. He was staring at Chloe with a look of pure shock. Before I could ask him what was wrong, a small voice cut through the silence. It came from the back of the room near the entrance. "Daddy." The voice was high and clear. It was the voice of a little child. Every head in the room turned. My head turned. Mark's head turned. The world seemed to slow down. I saw a little boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old, standing just inside the doorway. He had Mark's dark, curly hair. He had Mark's bright blue eyes. He was pointing directly at my new husband. A woman stood behind him, her hand covering her mouth. She looked terrified. The room was completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. The little boy took a step forward. "Daddy!" he shouted again, his voice filled with happy confusion. He started to run toward our table, toward Mark. I let go of Mark's hand. It felt cold and clammy. I stared at the little boy. Then I looked at Mark. His face was a mask of horror. He did not look at me. He just stared at the child running toward him. I felt 100 pairs of eyes on me. I could feel their pity, their shock, their curiosity. My perfect day, my perfect moment had just shattered into a million tiny pieces. I felt my heart break. It was a clean, sharp snap. Chloe was still standing. She had a small, triumphant smile on her face. She took a slow sip of her champagne. She knew. She had planned this. That toast was not a mistake. It was a warning. It was the beginning of the end. I understood that now. My best friend had just ruined my life, and my husband had let her. He had a secret. A huge, life-altering secret. A secret that was now running across the dance floor, calling him Daddy. The little boy reached our table. He looked up at Mark with wide, innocent eyes. "Daddy, who is that lady?" he asked, pointing at me. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. The sound was like a gunshot in the silent room. I did not look at Mark. I did not look at the child. I looked at the woman by the door. She was crying now. I turned and walked away. I did not run. I walked with my head held high, right past all of our guests. I could feel their stares on my back. I pushed open the doors of the reception hall and walked out into the cool night air. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away. My wedding dress felt heavy, like a suit of armor I could no longer wear. The dream was over. A nightmare had just begun. My sister Jenna caught up to me in the hallway. She was one of my other bridesmaids. She wrapped her arms around me. "Lily, oh my God," she whispered. "What is happening?" I could not speak. I just shook my head. The tears started to fall then. Hot, angry tears. They streamed down my face, ruining the makeup I had spent hours on. "I don't know," I finally choked out. "I don't know anything." The betrayal was a physical pain in my chest. It hurt to breathe. He had lied to me. For how long? About what else? "Let's get you out of here," Jenna said. Her voice was firm. She led me toward a side exit, away from the main entrance where guests were starting to spill out, whispering and pointing. We found a small, empty office. She closed the door behind us. I sank into a chair. The big, white dress pooled around me on the floor. I felt so small inside of it. "He lied to me," I whispered. It was the only thought I could form. "Mark lied to me." "We don't know that for sure," Jenna started to say, trying to be gentle. "Jenna, did you see that little boy?" I asked, my voice rising. He looked exactly like him. And Chloe. That toast. She knew. She did this on purpose. The pieces were clicking together in my mind, forming a horrifying picture. My best friend and my husband. They were connected in this lie. The door opened. It was Mark. His face was ashen. He looked sick. "Lily, please," he said, his voice cracking. "Let me explain." I stood up. A sudden rage washed over me, pushing away the shock. "Explain what?" I demanded. "Explain why a child I have never seen before is calling you daddy at our wedding? Explain why my best friend just blew up our lives with a toast? What is there to explain, Mark?" "It's not what you think," he said, taking a step toward me. "Don't come near me," I warned. My voice was low and dangerous. I had never used that tone with him before. He stopped. Jenna stepped between us. "Maybe you should give her some space, Mark," she said. "I need to talk to my wife," he insisted, his eyes pleading with me. "Your wife?" I laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound. "I don't even know who you are." That was the truth. The man I married an hour ago did not exist. He was a stranger, a liar, and I was tied to him. The thought made me feel physically ill. "Please, Lily," he begged. "Just 5 minutes. Let's go somewhere private." I looked at Jenna. She gave me a small nod, as if to say she would be right outside. I needed answers. I could not leave without answers. I felt a cold resolve settle over me. The tears stopped. My hands stopped shaking. I had to know the truth. I had to know how deep the lie went. "Fine," I said. 5 minutes. I looked him dead in the eye. "Then you are going to go back out there and tell our guests that the wedding is over." His face fell. He knew I was serious. He led me to a small private room down the hall. It was a bridal suite, meant for me to change in later. The irony was suffocating. My beautiful, lacy white dress felt like a costume from another life. A life that had ended just a few minutes ago. I sat on the edge of the plush sofa. He stood in the middle of the room, wringing his hands. He looked like a cornered animal. "His name is Leo," Mark started, his voice barely a whisper. "He is 5 years old." I just stared at him, my face a blank mask. I refused to give him anything. No tears, no anger, just cold, hard silence. I wanted him to squirm. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the humiliation I felt. "He's my son," he finally admitted. The words came out in a rush, as if saying them quickly would make them hurt less. It did not work. Each word was a new stab to my heart. Your son, I repeated flatly. You have a son. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. A fact that he had hidden from me for the entire 2 years we had been together. I was going to tell you, he said quickly. I swear, I didn't know how. I was waiting for the right time. The right time? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. You thought after we were legally married was the right time? After I committed my entire life to you in front of everyone we love? When exactly was the right time going to be, Mark? On our honeymoon? On our first anniversary? When the kid turned 18? No, of course not, he stammered. I was scared, Lily. I was terrified of losing you. I love you so much. I thought if you knew, you would leave me. You should have given me that choice, I said, my voice shaking with suppressed fury. That was my choice to make. You took that away from me. You let me marry you under false pretenses. That is fraud, Mark. The word hung in the air between us. It was a cold, legal word. It had nothing to do with love or marriage. It had to do with lies and deception. Who is she? I asked, my voice flat. The mother. He hesitated. Her name is Sarah, he said reluctantly. It was a long time ago, before I met you. It was a mistake. We were not serious. A mistake that resulted in a child, I pointed out. A child who knows who his father is. Does he see you? Sometimes, he mumbled, looking at the floor. Not often. I help out. Financially. Another lie. I could feel it. The way he could not meet my eyes. The way he was shifting his weight from foot to foot. He was not telling me the whole story. This was just the tip of the iceberg. And Chloe? I asked, my voice like steel. How does Chloe fit into this? Mark's head snapped up. Chloe? He asked, feigning confusion. She has nothing to do with this. I laughed again, that same ugly sound. Stop lying to me, Mark. Just for 1 minute, stop lying. Her toast was not a coincidence. She knew. She knew about your son. And she knew you hadn't told me, didn't she? He looked away. He could not deny it. His silence was a confession. She found out, he muttered. A few months ago. She promised she wouldn't say anything. And you believed her? I asked, incredulous. You trusted my best friend with a secret that you kept from your own fiancé? How stupid are you? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. He had no defense. He had made a series of terrible choices, and they had all blown up in his face, taking me down with him. I'm so sorry, Lily, he whispered, his eyes filling with tears. I know I messed up. I messed up so badly. But we can fix this. We can get through this. I love you. I stood up and walked toward the door. No, we can't, I said, my voice void of all emotion. I felt hollowed out. Empty. There is no we anymore. You destroyed that. I opened the door. Jenna was standing right there, her face etched with worry. She looked from me to Mark. Go back to your party, Mark, I said, not looking at him. Go tell everyone it's over. Tell them your wife has left you. And then you need to go deal with your son. I walked past him and out of the room, Jenna right behind me. I did not look back. I could not. If I looked back, I might have fallen apart completely. And I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not again. The humiliation in the ballroom was enough for one lifetime. From now on, he would only see my strength. My parents were waiting for us in the lobby. My mom's face was a mess of tears and mascara. My dad looked like he wanted to commit murder. He took one look at my face and his own hardened. Where is he? My dad asked, his voice a low growl. It doesn't matter, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm leaving. Can you take me home? Of course, sweetheart, my mom said, rushing forward to hug me. The hug was tight and warm, but it could not stop the shivering that had started deep inside me. My dad put a protective arm around my shoulders. "We'll get your things," he said. "Let's go." As we walked toward the exit, I saw Mark's parents, Eleanor and Richard, hurrying toward us. Eleanor had a look of frantic concern on her face, but it looked fake. It looked practiced. "Lily, darling," she said, reaching for my arm. "Don't be hasty. We can sort this out. It's just a little misunderstanding." I pulled my arm away. "A misunderstanding?" I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. "Your son has a secret child that he never told me about. That is not a misunderstanding, Eleanor. That is a betrayal of the highest order." Richard stepped forward, his expression stern. "Now, listen here, young lady," he started. "There is no need for hysterics. Mark made a mistake, but this is a family matter now. We will handle it." "No," I said, cutting him off. "You will not handle it. I will handle it. And the first step is getting an annulment." I saw the shock on their faces. They had expected me to cry, to scream, maybe to forgive. They had not expected me to be so decisive. They had underestimated me. Mark had underestimated me. That was their mistake. "You can't be serious," Eleanor gasped. "I have never been more serious in my life," I replied. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going home." I turned and walked away, my family flanking me like a royal guard. I did not give them a second glance. They were part of the lie. I did not know how, but I was sure of it. Their reaction was too controlled, too focused on damage control and not on the actual devastation their son had caused. The car ride to my parents' house was silent. I stared out the window at the passing city lights. They looked blurry through my unshed tears. I had left my own wedding reception less than 2 hours after saying, "I do." My marriage was over before it had even begun. When we got to their house, I went straight to the guest room. I took off the heavy white dress and let it fall to the floor in a heap. I put on an old t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. I felt like I was shedding a skin. The bride was gone. I did not know who was left. Later that night, I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with texts and missed calls. Most were from Mark. Some were from friends asking what had happened. And one was from Chloe. "Lily, we need to talk. I know you're mad, but I did it for you. Please call me." I deleted the message without replying. I could not even stomach the thought of hearing her voice. The betrayal from her felt almost as sharp as the one from Mark. He was a man I loved. But she was my sister in all but blood. She had held my hand through every crisis, every breakup, every celebration. And she had chosen to destroy my biggest celebration with a secret she had no right to wield. I thought about the little boy, Leo. He was the only innocent person in this entire mess. He just wanted his dad. And his dad was a coward who had hidden him away like a dirty secret. My anger started to burn brighter than my grief. Mark had not just lied to me. He had failed his own child. And his parents had helped him. They had enabled this lie, this cruelty. A new feeling began to take root in my heart. It was not sadness. It was determination. I was not going to be a victim in this story. I was not going to crumble. They had tried to humiliate me, to break me down in front of everyone. But they had failed. They had only made me stronger. I would get my annulment. I would erase this day, this marriage, from my life. But first, I needed the whole truth, every last ugly detail. I needed to know exactly who and what I was fighting. And I would start with Chloe. She was the one who lit the match. She would be the one to tell me where the gasoline came from. I picked up my phone and sent her a text. "Meet me for coffee tomorrow, 10 a.m., the little cafe near my parents' house. Come alone." She replied almost instantly. "Of course, I'll be there." I put the phone down and closed my eyes. Sleep would not come. My mind was racing, replaying the scene at the reception over and over. The toast, the shout, the look on Mark's face, the little boy's innocent eyes. I had walked into that reception as a bride, full of hope and love. I was leaving it as something else entirely, something harder, something colder, something ready for a fight. The storybook was closed. A war was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted but clear-headed. The grief was still there, a heavy weight in my chest, but the rage was a fire in my belly. I got dressed in the plainest clothes I could find, jeans and a gray sweater. I wanted to be invisible. I did not want to look like a bride whose life had just imploded. My mom was in the kitchen when I came downstairs. She had made coffee. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had not slept either. "Are you sure you want to do this, honey?" she asked, her voice gentle. "Talk to Chloe, I mean. Maybe you should just rest." "I need to know what she knows, Mom," I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee. I needed the caffeine. I needed the warmth. "I can't rest until I understand." She nodded, her expression grim. "Your father called the lawyer this morning," she said quietly. "He's drawing up the annulment papers, based on fraud. The lawyer thinks we have a very strong case." "Good," I said. The word came out clipped and final. There was no hesitation in my heart. This marriage was a lie, and I wanted it legally erased from my existence. I drove to the cafe. It was a place Chloe and I used to go to all the time. It felt strange to be there now, under these circumstances. It felt like a betrayal of all our happy memories. I saw her sitting at a small table in the corner. She looked nervous. She was twisting a napkin in her hands. She saw me and tried to smile, but it did not reach her eyes. I sat down without a word. I did not say hello. I did not order anything. I just looked at her. I let the silence stretch out, making her uncomfortable. I wanted her to be the first one to speak. I wanted her to start explaining. "Lily," she finally said, her voice small. "I am so sorry for how that happened. I never meant for it to be so public." "Didn't you?" I asked, my voice flat. "It seems to me you meant it to be exactly that public. You waited until my wedding reception. You made a toast. You wanted a spectacle." "No," she insisted, her eyes wide. I couldn't let you go through with it. I couldn't let you be married to him knowing what I knew. He's a liar." "And what are you, Chloe?" I shot back. "You're my best friend. You knew for months Mark admitted it. Months. You smiled at my bridal shower. You helped me pick out my dress. You stood beside me at the altar. All while knowing he had a secret child. You're a liar, too." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I did it to protect you," she cried, her voice cracking. "I know the timing was terrible, but I was trying to save you from a lifetime of lies with him. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do." "You could have told me privately," I said, my voice rising. People at the next table glanced over at us. I lowered my voice. But it was filled with venom. "You could have come to me a month ago, a week ago, even yesterday morning. You could have told me the truth as my friend. But you didn't. You chose to humiliate me in front of 200 people. You made my wedding a joke. So don't you dare tell me you did this to protect me. You did this for you. Why, Chloe? Why did you really do it?" Her face crumpled. The self-righteous anger drained away, replaced by something else, something ugly. Shame. "I don't know," she whispered, looking down at her shredded napkin. "Yes, you do," I pressed. I was not going to let her off the hook. "Was it jealousy? Were you in love with him?" "No," she said, looking up, horrified. "Never. I always hated him. I never thought he was good enough for you. So you decided to prove it," I finished for her. "You wanted to be right. You wanted to be the one who saved me, the one who saw the truth when I was too blind with love to see it. You wanted to be the hero of the story. My story. She didn't answer. She just cried. And in her silence, I had my answer. Her motives were not pure. They were selfish. She had enjoyed having this secret, this power over me and Mark. She had enjoyed being the one to bring it all crashing down. She had gotten some sick satisfaction from my pain. "How did you find out?" I asked, my tone shifting from anger to interrogation. I needed facts now, not apologies. She took a shaky breath. "I overheard him on the phone one day," she explained. "A few months ago. We were all at that barbecue at your parents' house. He thought he was alone in the garden. He was arguing with someone, a woman. He was talking about money, about the boy. He said her name, Sarah. I didn't think much of it at first, but it stuck with me. I got curious." "You spied on him," I stated. She flinched. "I looked her up," she admitted. "Sarah Jensen. It wasn't hard to find her. Her social media was private, but I saw a picture of her with a little boy. A boy who looked just like Mark. I messaged her. I pretended to be an old friend of Mark's. She was cautious, but she eventually told me everything. That Mark was the father. That he barely saw him. That he wasn't paying what he was supposed to." My blood ran cold. So it was worse than he said. He wasn't just a secret father. He was a deadbeat father. "And what did you do with this information, Chloe?" "I confronted him," she said. "I told him he had to tell you, or I would. He begged me not to. He said he would tell you after the wedding, once you were settled. He said he didn't want to lose you. He swore he would handle it." "And you just accepted that?" I asked, incredulous. "You let him walk me down that aisle?" "I thought he would do it," she insisted. "I really did. But then, as the wedding got closer, I realized he had no intention of telling you. He was going to trap you. And I couldn't let that happen. The toast? It was a last-ditch effort. I just wanted to force his hand. I thought he would confess everything to you privately after that. I never thought the woman and child would actually be there. A new piece of the puzzle clicked into place." "You didn't invite them?" I asked. "No, of course not," she said, looking genuinely shocked. "Why would I do that? That's cruel." "Then who did?" I wondered aloud. If Chloe didn't invite Sarah and Leo, who did? Who else knew? Who else would want to cause such a public scene? The only other people who knew were Mark and his parents. It didn't make sense. Why would they invite the secret child to the wedding? Unless someone else knew. Someone else Chloe had told. Or maybe Sarah had come on her own. I needed to talk to her. I needed to hear her side of the story. I stood up. "We're done, Chloe," I said. The words were quiet but final. "Our friendship is over. What you did was unforgivable. You used my pain for your own drama. I never want to see you or speak to you again." "Lily, please," she sobbed, reaching for my hand. "Don't say that. We've been friends our whole lives." I pulled my hand back as if her touch had burned me. "The person I was friends with my whole life would never have done this to me," I said coldly. "I don't know who you are anymore." I walked out of the cafe without looking back. I left her there, crying at the table full of our old memories. One betrayal dealt with. Now for the next. I went home and sat at my parents' kitchen table. I needed to find Sarah. I did what Chloe had done. I searched her name on social media. I found her profile. It was locked down tight. But her profile picture was a photo of her and Leo. He was smiling, a gap between his two front teeth. And he was the spitting image of Mark. Seeing his face again sent a pang through my chest. He was just a little boy. He deserved a father. He deserved better than Mark. I took a deep breath and composed a message. I had to be careful. She had no reason to trust me. For all she knew, I was on my husband's side. "Hello, Sarah," I wrote. "My name is Lily. I was the woman Mark married yesterday. I know you were there. I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for you. I want you to know that I am not angry with you. I am angry with Mark. He lied to me. He kept you and your son a secret. I have left him, and I am filing for an annulment. I don't know who invited you to the wedding, but I am glad the truth came out. I would really like to talk to you, if you're willing. I just want to understand everything. I read the message over a dozen times. It sounded sincere. It sounded like I was on her side, which I was. I hit send. Then I waited. The waiting was agony. Every minute that passed felt like an hour. I paced the floor. I drank more coffee. I tried to read a book but couldn't focus on the words. My entire future depended on her response. She held all the missing pieces of the puzzle. Without her, I would only ever have Mark's lies and Chloe's self-serving version of the truth. Hours passed. The sun started to set. I began to lose hope. Maybe she thought it was a trick. Maybe Mark had gotten to her and told her not to talk to me. Maybe she just wanted to be left alone, to stay out of the mess. I wouldn't blame her. Then, just as I was about to give up, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. My heart leaped into my throat. I opened it with trembling hands. "I don't know if I can trust you," the message read. "But I'm tired of being silent. Meet me tomorrow. Noon, the park by the library. Come alone." Relief washed over me. So potent it made me dizzy. She was going to talk to me. I was going to get the truth. I typed back a simple reply. "I'll be there. I'll be alone. Thank you." That night, I actually slept for a few hours. It was a restless sleep, filled with dreams of wedding dresses and crying children. But it was something. When I woke up, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Today, I would learn everything. Today, the real fight would begin. I was no longer just a jilted bride. I was an investigator. And I was on the hunt for the truth. Mark and his family had no idea what was coming for them. They thought I would just disappear quietly with a broken heart. They were about to find out how wrong they were. The park was quiet when I arrived. It was a weekday, so it was mostly empty except for a few mothers with their strollers. I saw her sitting on a bench near the playground. She was watching Leo as he climbed on the jungle gym. He was laughing, oblivious to the adult drama swirling around him. Sarah looked tense. She kept glancing around as if she expected Mark or his parents to appear out of nowhere. I approached her slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Sarah?" I asked softly. She looked up. Her eyes were guarded. She looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. This secret had clearly taken a toll on her for years. "Lily," she acknowledged, her voice flat. She gestured to the spot on the bench next to her. I sat down, leaving a respectable distance between us. We sat in silence for a moment, watching her son play. He was so full of life and energy, and he looked so much like Mark it was painful. "He's beautiful," I said quietly. A small, sad smile touched her lips. "He is," she agreed. "He's a good kid. He doesn't deserve any of this." "No, he doesn't," I said. "None of us do." I turned to look at her. "Thank you for meeting me. I can't imagine how you must feel. I need to know the truth. All of it. From the beginning." She took a long, deep breath as if bracing herself. "Mark and I dated for almost a year," she began, her eyes fixed on her son. "It was serious, or at least I thought it was. We talked about moving in together. We talked about the future. Then I found out I was pregnant. I was scared, but I was also happy. I thought he would be too." She paused, a bitter look on her face. "I was wrong. When I told him, he completely shut down. He said I was lying. He said it wasn't his. He said I was trying to trap him. He broke up with me the next day. He told me to take care of it. And then he was gone. Changed his number. Blocked me on everything. He just vanished." I felt sick. This was so much worse than what Mark had told me. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had been cruel. He had abandoned her when she needed him most. "What did you do?" I whispered. "What could I do?" she said with a shrug. "I had the baby. Leo, my parents helped me. It was hard, but we managed. When Leo was about a year old, I decided I couldn't let Mark get away with it. Leo deserved to have a father, at least on paper. He deserved support. So I found a lawyer. We had to track Mark down. We had to serve him with papers. He fought it. He denied paternity until a DNA test proved it. A court ordered him to pay child support. Mark told me he was helping out financially," I said. Sarah laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "He pays the absolute bare minimum the court ordered," she said. "And he's late almost every month. I have to chase him for it constantly. It's a game to him. As for seeing Leo, he's seen him maybe a dozen times in his entire life. For an hour or two, whenever he feels guilty or whenever I threaten to take him back to court. He's a signature on a birth certificate, Lily. He's not a father." The pit in my stomach grew deeper. I had been engaged to this man. I had planned a life with this monster. "I am so sorry, Sarah," I said, and I meant it. "I had no idea." "How could you?" she replied. "He's a good liar. He's charming. He knows how to make you believe what he wants you to believe." She finally turned to look at me, her eyes searching my face. "He really didn't tell you anything?" "Nothing," I confirmed. "I found out when Leo shouted 'Daddy' at the reception, just like everyone else." She winced. "I'm so sorry about that," she said, her voice filled with genuine regret. "I never would have come if I knew he hadn't told you. I swear." "Then why did you come?" I asked gently. "Who invited you?" She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. It was one of our wedding invitations. The same elegant, cream-colored cardstock I had spent weeks picking out. Tucked inside was a small typed note. She handed it to me. I read the note. "If you want your son to ever know his father, be here. He is getting married and starting a new family. Don't let him erase you." There was no signature. It was anonymous. "It arrived in the mail a week before the wedding," Sarah explained. "I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe Mark had sent it. Maybe it was his twisted way of finally introducing us. Maybe he wanted his son at his wedding." I was torn. Part of me wanted to throw it away. But another part of me, the part that wants Leo to have some connection to his father, it made me go. I thought I would just stand in the back. See what happened. I never intended to make a scene. But then, Leo saw him. And he got so excited. Her voice broke. "He just wants a dad." I handed the invitation back to her, my mind racing. Chloe had sworn she didn't send it. Mark and his parents would never have sent it. So who did? Who else knew the whole story and wanted it to come out in the most explosive way possible? It didn't make sense. "It gets worse," Sarah said, her voice low. "It's not just Mark, it's his parents." "Eleanor and Richard," I said, my jaw tightening. I knew it. I knew they were involved. "When I first filed for paternity, they were the ones who came after me," Sarah said. "They called me. They threatened me. Their lawyer sent me terrifying letters. They said I was trying to extort money from their son. They said they would ruin me, that they would prove in court that I was an unfit mother, and they would take Leo from me." I gasped. "They threatened to take your son?" She nodded, her eyes dark with the memory. It was awful. I was so scared. I almost dropped the whole thing. But my lawyer told me they had no grounds, that it was just a scare tactic. After the DNA test came back, their tone changed. They stopped threatening and started offering. "Offering what?" I asked. Though I had a sick feeling I already knew the answer. "Money," she said. "Eleanor met me for coffee. She offered me $10,000, a one-time payment. In exchange, I would have to sign a document saying Mark was not the father, that the DNA test was wrong. I would have to legally remove his name from the birth certificate and never contact them or him ever again. She wanted me to erase my son's father from his life for $10,000. I was speechless. The cruelty, the arrogance. They thought they could just buy her off. They thought their money could make their grandchild disappear. This was not just a family with a secret. This was a family of criminals, morally bankrupt and willing to do anything to protect their perfect public image. I told her where she could shove her money, Sarah said with a flash of defiance. I told her my son wasn't for sale. After that, they backed off. They just ignored us, pretended we didn't exist. Until now. We sat in silence again. The whole ugly picture was now clear. Mark was a coward and a deadbeat. His parents were manipulative bullies, and I had almost become a part of their toxic, dishonest family. I felt a wave of nausea. "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked, watching me carefully. "I'm going to get my annulment," I said firmly, "and then I'm going to make sure they pay for what they did. To me. And to you and Leo." A flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean, they think this is over," I explained, a plan starting to form in my mind. "They think I'll sign the papers and disappear, but they have underestimated us. You have been fighting this alone for years. Now you have me. And I have resources they don't know about. My father is a lawyer. Not a corporate shark like theirs, but a damn good one. And my family has some connections in this town. Their reputation is everything to them. We are going to use that." "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice stronger now. "I need evidence," I said. "Do you still have those letters from their lawyer? The threatening ones? Do you have any emails or texts from Eleanor about the $10,000? She thought for a moment. "The lawyer's letters. I think my lawyer has copies. The offer from Eleanor. That was in person. She was too smart to put it in writing." My heart sank a little. A verbal offer was hard to prove. "What about texts?" I asked. "Anything from Mark? From back when you told him you were pregnant?" Her eyes widened. "My old phone," she whispered. "I have it in a box somewhere. I never got rid of it. I kept everything, just in case." "Find it, Sarah," I said, my voice urgent. "Find that phone. Those messages could be everything. They could prove he knew about the baby from the beginning. They could prove his cruelty. It would destroy his claim that this was all just a youthful mistake. I'll look for it tonight," she promised. She looked at me, a new sense of partnership in her eyes. "Lily, why are you doing this? You could just walk away. You don't have to get involved in my fight." I looked over at Leo, who was now sliding down the slide, his face alight with pure joy. "Because this stopped being just your fight the moment they involved me," I said. "They built their perfect family image on a foundation of lies and cruelty. They hurt you. They hurt your son. And they tried to humiliate me. I'm not just walking away. I'm going to be the one who knocks the whole thing down." A real smile finally broke through on Sarah's face. It was the first one I had seen. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." We exchanged numbers. We were a team now. An unlikely alliance forged in the fires of Mark's betrayal. As I walked back to my car, I felt a strange sense of exhilaration. The grief was still there, but it was being overshadowed by a powerful sense of purpose. I had a mission: justice for Sarah and Leo, and revenge for me. Mark had been calling and texting me nonstop. Pathetic, pleading messages. "Lily, please talk to me. I love you more than anything. We can get through this. Don't throw away what we have." I had ignored them all, but now I had a reason to respond. I needed to keep him on the hook. I needed him to think there was still a chance. I needed to gather more information. I sat in my car and typed out a reply. "I need time to think, Mark. Your parents have been calling me too. It's too much. I can't deal with all of you right now." His reply was instantaneous. "I'll tell them to stop. I'll give you all the time you need. Just please don't shut me out. I'll do anything to fix this." "We'll see," I typed back. It was vague. It was non-committal. It was perfect. It would give him just enough hope to keep him talking, but not enough to make him think he was forgiven. I was learning to play their game, and I was going to win. That evening, I got a text from Sarah. It was a picture of an old, cracked smartphone. The caption read, "Found it. It still turns on." My heart pounded in my chest. "This is it," I whispered to myself. "This is the beginning of the end for them." I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. The hunt was on. The next few days were a strange mix of quiet planning and emotional turmoil. On the outside, I was calm. I helped my mom around the house. I went for long walks. I spoke to my lawyer, who confirmed that the annulment was straightforward. But on the inside, my mind was a whirlwind. Sarah was working on recovering the old text messages. I was working on a plan. My strategy was simple. Mark and his family cared about one thing above all else: their reputation. They lived in a wealthy community where appearances were everything. Richard was a partner at a prestigious investment firm. Eleanor ran every major charity committee in town. Their social standing was built on a carefully constructed image of perfection and integrity. That was their weak spot. That was where I would hit them. I started by having a conversation with my dad, not as my father, but as my legal counsel. We sat in his study, the annulment papers on the desk between us. "The fraud case is solid," he said. "Mark's concealment of his child is a clear-cut reason to void the marriage. They won't fight it. It would be too messy for them." "I don't just want it to be over, Dad," I said. "I want justice. For me and for Sarah and her son." I told him everything Sarah had told me. About the abandonment, the threats, the missed child support, the attempted buyout from Eleanor. My dad listened, his expression growing darker with every word. When I was finished, he was silent for a long time. "They are despicable people," he finally said, his voice thick with disgust. "Okay, this changes things. This is no longer just an annulment. This is leverage." "What do we do?" I asked. "Sarah needs to get a new lawyer," he said. "A shark, I know a few. We need to refile for child support, citing years of underpayment and demanding retroactive payments with interest. We also need to document the harassment from Eleanor and Richard. We might not be able to prove the buyout offer without a recording or a witness, but the pattern of intimidation is important." "Sarah found her old phone," I told him. "She's trying to get the text from when she first told Mark she was pregnant." My dad's eyes lit up. "That's the smoking gun, Lily," he said. "If those texts say what we think they say, we can ruin him." The next day, Sarah sent me the messages. She had taken screenshots. My hands shook as I read them. They were worse than I could have imagined. Sarah: "Mark, we need to talk. I'm pregnant." Mark: "You're kidding, right? This is a joke." Sarah: "No, I'm serious. I took 3 tests." Mark: "It's not mine." "It can't be." Sarah: "Of course it's yours. Who else would it be?" Mark: "I don't care. Get rid of it. I'm not going to be a father. My life is just starting. You're not going to ruin it for me." Sarah: "Get rid of it? Mark, it's our baby." Mark: "It's a problem. A problem you need to solve. Don't contact me again." I had to put my phone down. I felt like I was going to be sick. This was the man I had promised to love and cherish. The cold, calculating cruelty in his words was breathtaking. He hadn't just been a scared kid. He had been a monster. I forwarded the screenshots to my dad. His reply was swift. "Game over." Now that we had the evidence, the plan became clearer. We would not go public with it immediately. First, we would use it to force their hand. My dad helped Sarah find a new, aggressive family law attorney. The lawyer, a woman named Ms. Davis, was thrilled with the evidence we had. She immediately filed a motion to recalculate Mark's child support obligations, including a massive claim for back payments. She also attached a sworn affidavit from Sarah detailing the history of harassment from Eleanor and Richard. The next step was to deal with Mark and his family. They had been quiet for a few days, respecting my request for space. They thought I was at home crying. They had no idea I was building a war machine. I decided it was time to break the silence. I agreed to meet with them. All of them. I called Mark. "I'm ready to talk," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "But not just with you. I want to meet with you and your parents. All together." He sounded relieved. "Of course, Lily. Anything. When and where?" "Your parents' house," I said. "Sunday afternoon. I want to resolve this as a family." I used their own language against them. They love to talk about family. I was going to show them what happened when a family was built on lies. "We'll be there," he promised. "Thank you, Lily. This means everything to me." "I'm sure it does," I said, and hung up. The next few days were spent preparing for the meeting. I met with Sarah and Ms. Davis. We went over the plan. Sarah was nervous but determined. Seeing those old text messages had reignited her own anger. "Are you sure about this?" she asked me. "Confronting them all at once? They're going to be vicious." "Let them be," I said. "We have the truth, and we have the proof. They have nothing but lies. Their power comes from us being scared and silent. We're not going to be either of those things anymore." I also made a few quiet phone calls. I had a cousin who was a local journalist. I told her I had a story she might be interested in, but she had to hold it until I gave her the signal. I also spoke to a woman who served on a charity board with Eleanor. I didn't tell her everything, but I hinted that there was a scandal brewing involving the family, and that the board might want to be prepared. I was planting seeds. I was setting up the fallout before the bomb had even dropped. When Sunday arrived, I felt strangely calm. I dressed carefully in a simple, dark blue dress. I wanted to look serious and composed. I did not want to look like a victim. I drove to their house, the one where I had been for so many happy family dinners. It looked different to me now. It looked like a mausoleum, a place where secrets were buried. I rang the doorbell. Mark answered. He tried to hug me, but I sidestepped him. "Hello, Mark," I said coolly. Eleanor and Richard were waiting in the formal living room. The room was pristine, not a cushion out of place. It was a room for show, not for living. They all had anxious, hopeful looks on their faces. They thought this was their chance to fix things, to smooth it all over and sweep it under the rug. "Lily, thank you for coming," Eleanor said, gesturing to the sofa. "Please sit." I remained standing. "I'd prefer to stand," I said. This threw them off. It was a small act of defiance, but it changed the power dynamic in the room. I was not there as a supplicant. I was there as an adversary. "We are so sorry for the pain this has caused you," Richard began, taking on his serious, patriarchal tone. Mark made a grave error in judgment, a mistake of youth that he has been paying for ever since. "A mistake of youth?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. He was 26 when Leo was born. He is 31 now. When does youth end and adulthood begin in your family? Richard flushed. He was scared. Mark jumped in. "I was an idiot. I should have told you, I know that. But I love you, Lily. I want to spend my life with you. We can make this right. Sarah and Leo, we can make them part of our lives." A real part. It was a pretty speech. It might have even worked if I hadn't known the truth. "That's a beautiful offer, Mark," I said, my voice laced with sarcasm. "But it's about 5 years too late. You didn't want Leo to be a part of your life. You told his mother to get rid of him." The color drained from Mark's face. He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "What? No, I never said that." "She's lying." "Is she?" I asked. I took out my phone and held it up. because I have the text messages from 5 years ago. Get rid of it, you said. You're not going to ruin my life for me. Does that sound familiar? Mark was speechless. He looked at his parents for help, but they looked just as stunned. They probably believed his sanitized version of the story, too. Eleanor recovered first. That was a long time ago, she said dismissively. He was a frightened young man. He said things he didn't mean. And did you mean what you said, Eleanor? I asked, turning my attention to her. When you offered Sarah $10,000 to make her son disappear, was that just something you said because you were frightened? Now it was Eleanor's turn to go pale. I have no idea what you're talking about, she stammered. I would never do such a thing. That woman is a liar and an extortionist. That's a serious accusation, I said calmly. One you might have to repeat in a courtroom, because Sarah has a new lawyer, a very good one, and they are filing for years of back child support. They have also documented your threats to take her child away. The panic in the room was palpable now. The carefully constructed facade was cracking. This is a shakedown, Richard boomed, trying to regain control. This is a private family matter. You can't come in here and make these wild accusations. It stopped being a private matter when you allowed my wedding to happen, I shot back. It stopped being a private matter when you threatened a single mother. And it's about to become a very public matter unless you listen to me very carefully. They all fell silent. They were finally realizing that I was not there to negotiate a reconciliation. I was there to deliver an ultimatum. Just then, the doorbell rang. Eleanor looked confused. Are we expecting someone? I am, I said. I invited a guest. Mark went to the door. A moment later, he returned, and Sarah was with him. She walked into the room, her head held high. She looked terrified but resolute. Eleanor gasped. What is she doing here? She hissed. She is here to be a part of this family matter, I said, since it concerns her and her son. Sit down, Sarah. Sarah sat in an armchair, directly opposite Eleanor. The two women stared at each other. One was a wealthy matriarch used to getting her way. The other was a mother who had been fighting for her child for years. Now, I said, taking control of the room, here is what is going to happen. You are not going to fight the annulment. It will be processed quickly and quietly, based on fraud. You will agree to that in writing. Fine, Richard grumbled. Next, I continued, you are going to pay all of Sarah's legal fees. All of them. And you are going to agree to the child support settlement that her lawyer proposes. It will include all back payments, with interest, and a new monthly amount based on Mark's actual income, not the one he's been hiding. There will be no negotiation. That's absurd, Richard exclaimed. We're not just going to hand over a blank check. You will, I said, my voice like ice. Or those text messages from Mark might find their way into the hands of a journalist I know. I wonder how the board of directors at your firm would feel about you being implicated in a scheme to hide a grandchild and avoid child support. Reputation is so important in the investment world, isn't it? Richard's face turned a blotchy red. He was cornered, and he knew it. And you, Eleanor, I said, turning to her. You are going to write a check to a children's charity, a large one, for let's say $50,000. And then you are going to resign from the board of the hospital fundraiser. I'm sure they wouldn't want someone with your moral flexibility handling their money. I have a friend on that board. I'm sure she would be very interested to hear this story. Eleanor looked like I had slapped her. Her charity work was her entire identity. Taking that away from her was a fate worse than death. You wouldn't, she whispered. Try me, I said. Finally, I looked at Mark. He was just standing there, looking broken. And you, I said. You are going to start being a father. You are going to see your son. You are going to get to know him. And you are going to apologize to him one day for being a coward. Sarah will set the terms. You will follow them. The room was silent. I had laid out my terms. I had taken away all their power. I had used their own weapons, their money, and their reputation against them. Sarah spoke for the first time, her voice clear and strong. "This isn't about the money for me," she said, looking directly at Mark and his parents. "It's about the respect my son deserves. He is your blood, and you have treated him like garbage. That ends today." I looked at my watch. "You have 24 hours to have your lawyer contact my lawyer and Sarah's lawyer to agree to these terms," I said. "If you don't, then all bets are off. The story goes public, and you can deal with the consequences." I turned to Sarah. "Are you ready to go?" She nodded. We stood up and walked out of the room together. We didn't look back. We left them there in their perfect, silent living room, with the ruins of their perfect secret lives scattered around them. As we walked out the front door and into the sunshine, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was not over yet, but we had won the battle. The war would be over soon. The aftermath was swift and quiet, exactly as I had planned. Their lawyer called my lawyer the next morning. They agreed to everything. The annulment was finalized within weeks. It was as if the marriage had never happened. Sarah received a substantial check for the back child support, and a new, fair payment plan was put in place, legally binding and automatically deducted from Mark's salary. Eleanor quietly resigned from her charity board, citing personal reasons. A large anonymous donation was made to the children's hospital. The silence from their side was deafening. They did not fight. They did not argue. They simply complied. They knew they had lost. They knew I had them cornered, and they were too terrified of public humiliation to risk calling my bluff. They did not know that I would have followed through on every single threat. A few weeks later, I met Jenna for a drink. It was the first time I had felt like celebrating anything. "To annulments," she said, raising her glass, "and to getting rid of toxic men." "I'll drink to that," I said, clinking my glass against hers. "So, what happened with Chloe?" she asked. I sighed. I hadn't spoken to Chloe since our disastrous coffee meeting. She had sent me a few pleading texts, which I had ignored. "I'm done with her, Jenna," I said. "I can't forgive what she did. The way she did it. She made a spectacle of my pain." "I don't blame you," Jenna said. "What she did was selfish. She wanted to be the hero, but she ended up being just another villain." That was the perfect way to describe it. In her own mind, Chloe had saved me. But in reality, she had just added another layer of betrayal to an already unbearable situation. I decided then that I needed to close that chapter for good. The next day, I asked Chloe to meet me one last time. We met in a neutral park, not one of our old haunts. I didn't want memories tainting my resolve. She looked hopeful when she saw me, as if she thought this was a reconciliation. I quickly disabused her of that notion. "I didn't ask you here to make up, Chloe," I said, before she could even say hello. "I asked you here to say goodbye." Her face fell. "Lily, please," she started. "I know I messed up, but I was right about him, wasn't I? He was even worse than I thought." "You being right about him doesn't make you right for what you did," I said calmly. "You had a choice. You could have been a friend. You could have told me privately. You could have supported me, but you chose to be a showman. You chose drama over friendship. You enjoyed the power you had, and you enjoyed watching it all explode. That's not something I can forgive. That's not someone I want in my life." "So that's it?" she asked, tears in her eyes. 20 years of friendship down the drain?" "You threw it away, not me," I replied. "I hope you got what you wanted. Goodbye, Chloe." I turned and walked away. I did not feel sad. I felt free. I was cutting the last tie to that old life, that old me who was so willing to trust the wrong people. My final loose end was an unexpected phone call I received a month later. It was from Mark's aunt, his mother's sister. She sounded hesitant. "Lily, this is Martha," she said. I wanted to call and say I am so deeply sorry for what my family did to you. There's no excuse. It was monstrous." I was surprised. Thank you, Martha, I said. I appreciate that. Eleanor and Richard, they are not speaking to me right now, she continued. I told them they should be ashamed of themselves. The whole family knows the story now, the real story. And they are isolated. People are looking at them differently. They got what they wanted, I suppose. They kept their secret for a while. But it cost them everything. It was a small thing, but it meant a lot. It was confirmation that their perfect world had indeed crumbled. Not in a big public explosion, but in a series of quiet judgments and turned backs from the very people whose opinions they valued most. I still talk to Sarah regularly. We have become unlikely friends. She sends me pictures of Leo. He's started kindergarten. Mark has been seeing him once a week as per their new custody agreement. Sarah says it's awkward and strange, but it's a start. Leo finally has a father in his life, even if he is a reluctant one. Maybe one day Mark will become the man he should have been all along. Or maybe not. It's not my problem anymore. Sometimes I think about my wedding day. I don't feel the pain as sharply anymore. Instead, I feel a sense of gratitude. That little boy's shout, as horrifying as it was at the moment, was the sound of my salvation. It was the alarm bell that woke me up from a beautiful dream that was about to turn into a lifelong nightmare. I lost a husband and a best friend that day, but I found myself. I found a strength I never knew I had. I learned that some people will build their perfect lives on a foundation of lies. They will smile and say all the right things while they bury their secrets deep underground. But secrets have a way of coming to the surface. And I learned the deep, grim satisfaction of being the one to hold the shovel, to dig them all up and to watch as their carefully constructed world came tumbling down. They finally learned what it feels like to be exposed. They finally learned what it feels like to have everything taken away from them. And I walked away with the one thing they could never buy and can never get back: my freedom.